Melon
Okay,
Journey.
yeah, this game is really cool. I guess it's cool depending on what kind of games you like. This is just a pretty much it's a story game, adventure game. You're just kind of walking around talking to people, experiencing this world. It's made in an RPG maker, which is cool. I love games that utilize
Oh,
that
it's great.
engine. They're always like super quirky and weird, but this one specifically is like kind of the pinnacle of that. Like this was one of the first games that came out on Itch.io like a long time ago, like 2012. The prequel to this game. This game, the prequel to this game predates um, Undertale and a bunch of other games that were inspired by Undertale. So it's kind of like it has that voice that Undertale has that wasn't. So it's like it has a very connective tissue. It's like, oh, Undertale was inspired by this first game, Melon Journey, and then this is the sequel to Melon Journey almost 11 years later, which is crazy. There's no need to play the first game. But yeah, it's just a really solid story game. Like it's like you play as a character. Her name is Melon. Her best friend disappears, and she goes on an adventure to try and find him. They work and live inside of a melon factory that makes melon sodas, all these types of melon products, and it has this pretty like whimsical story on top of it. But there's something kind of like darker under it. Like oh, she's living in a building where the melon factory is where she works, and this city she's
Is this an
going to,
RPG, by the way, or what
there's
kind of?
no
There's
combat or
nothing. Yeah.
anything. You just like walk around and
Walking
talk.
around. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you like walk around, find an item, then you find the item that a person's like asking for. It kind of just like you just keep going and exploring the world. It turns into a detective story kind of. And yeah, so you eventually go into a city that has banned all melon products because there's something wrong with the things they put in their sodas and all these things. And so it's like it's really it has that like undertone of like social commentary going on. There's a lot of like union strikes going on in like cities and gentrification of cities and like music, and there's a lot of just really interesting things. All the characters are super funny. The dialogue's really good. It's just a really enjoyable, lighthearted, but also not, but it's not like super depressing, but it's like, oh, like this there's some kind of edge here, which I think is needed for something like this, at least for me. You need some kind of edge to pull you in. Yeah, it's a really gorgeous game. And it has definitely has like heft in the indie game community because it's been 11 years and it kind of started the whole renaissance of RPG Maker games back in 2011. So yeah, definitely give them their give Froach Club their laurels. They're great. Yeah, so that's
Very
that
cool.
one.
It looks charming, which is you
I
don't get to
like,
see that too often.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like that it nails the original Game Boy Color palette without
Yeah.
looking
Yes.
fully like a Game Boy game. Like,
Yep, and it's made. I just like RPG Maker games. Just like blow my mind because most of the time all of them kind of look the same. But whenever a dev like really dives into it, there's just games that look like you're just like, how did they do this within the RPG Maker like engine? I just love when games are like that.
Have you guys made anything in RPG Maker before? Any of you guys?
I mean, I've messed around with it. It's weird. I don't know how anybody makes
I'm gonna have to
anything.
post. I did my. I've done a bunch of projects in RPG Maker. One I did as sort of this super long Apocalypse Now style video game set in a fantasy world, which is going to be like the opening section of this. This was back in the 90s, RPG Maker 95, a bootleg copy. And then, yeah, Apocalypse Now. And then I did for college for my thesis for my class on like semantics. I did my full thesis in RPG Maker, and my professor was absolutely floored because in my game I made him, and you walk around as him in our school and kind of discovering aspects of the students, and I can't fucking find it now. I'm so upset that I can't find my thesis because I think I gave him the only copy on like 3.5-inch disc or whatever back in the day.
Dang.
But RPG Maker was and still is a pretty cool. I'm
Imagine
always
the only time I ever really tinkered with RPG Maker was the PlayStation 1 version, which is like the absolute worst way to deal with like the menus of RPG Maker.
There's this game called Lisa. It's one of my favorite games on Steam. It's made in RPG Maker, but it's a 2D game. They somehow turned it from a top down to 2D. I don't know how he even like approached that, but it's just like really crazy.
Yeah. He'd like to play this on Analog Pocket. Yeah, definitely. Yep.